Try that life and say goodbye. Not always polite. Work can never be fun. Simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Simply Unprofessional. I'm your host, Webby. Joining me tonight, we got Devin,
Hey everybody, it's me, Devin. How are you doing?
and we got Rob,
Hey everybody, it's me, Devin. How you doing?
and we got Avelos.
I'm so confused by everybody else, but
Yep.
hi there, everybody.
I was too. So, for those of you who listened last week, you'll know that this week we are going to be talking about Hocus Pocus 2, which just recently came out, so it is topical. I was just giving the boys a little heads up as far as I know Avelos and Rob, you were big fans of the first one. I guess we'll find out how you feel about the second one. But I was hoping that you guys could pretty much take the ball and run with this because, I mean, to me, getting into it, well, before we get into like the synopsis and the breakdown of the movie and stuff, it wasn't a bad movie. Like, it held my attention, but like watching it with like Rob, the parts that he found really funny, I didn't really chuckle at. Like, it was just a movie. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. I didn't hate it, but I'm probably not gonna go out of my way to watch it again unless somebody like is like, "Hey, you guys, you want to watch this?" And it's like, "Yeah, right. I got nothing else to do." So yeah, I will say when we get to it, I do have a favorite part. So there's at least that. I don't have a least favorite part, so that's good.
Well, I mean, and to trail off on that, I guess before we start, is I can definitely see why, for everybody else, and you don't watch for read reviews or you have a huge friend base that is differing like I do. It was exactly like that for most people. You either fell in the three categories. I absolutely love this movie. It's the greatest thing that ever came out. Blah 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 blah. I hated it, or you fell somewhere in between of the,
Right.
level.
And for me, I feel like it's maybe because, like I've said before, you recommended that I watch the first one, and I did a couple years ago at this point, I feel. But like I never saw it as a kid. I never watched it growing up. It was never a huge like every Halloween we watch this movie kind of thing. So it didn't. The second one definitely didn't have like any sense of nostalgia for me that it might for other people. So possibly that's weighing in on my
Well, I think that's actually a great point to start on, because I think that's why you would think it would be people who have nostalgia for the first one or would be in the love category, but they're actually most of the ones that say it's a between the to the it's not good. And I think it is that nostalgia factor. When you grow up with it, you get like it's kind of like a god complex thought. Like it should be better than it is at all times. Like, it's immortal. Like,
Right.
Everyone will still say that about the first one because they have that experience.
Yeah.
But for this new one, I feel like there's a lot of factors that made it less so much for that to have that same quality. And I think If nobody else says anything, I do have the first, like my first thing that I know is a 100% factor that limited what they could probably do. And I don't want to go on unless someone else has a thought.
Well, let me just insert one thing here because I didn't at the top. But for those of you listening to this episode, if you haven't watched it and you want to watch it, this episode's going to be very spoilery. So go watch the movie and then come back and listen to this episode and tell us what you think. We are going to be talking about various parts of the movie, giving a breakdown of the plot, and pretty much picking the movie apart cinematically. So, spoiler alerts. That being said, did anybody else have anything that they'd like to say before Avelos kicks this off with some thoughts?
I mean, I would just share my thoughts when it's my turn, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, other than it's definitely not, I didn't think it was as good as the first one, but I still thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, comparing it, like, if on its own, I think, like, I can see what you're saying. Like, it's not as, you'd kind of be like, eh. But, like, combining the two movies together, it's more of a, like, it gives you more of a, I don't know, I guess, stake in the story.
Yeah. So maybe I'll do this first. So I'll do the plot because this makes the most sense, and then we can pick it apart, and that way Devin can give his opinion because I'm very interested because I actually love Devin's opinions on a lot of stuff. So if you, and semi-spoiler, if you haven't seen the first Hocus Pocus, shame on you. It's been out for 29 years, and I don't care about spoilers for that. Go see it. So this one picks up not immediately where the last one left off. We are the same trio of witches are back because a girl and her friend, whom we find out much later in the story is actually a witch, brings the witches back because they were tricked. So the witches come back. They try to go about their whole, we need to steal the lives of children. Stay young and beautiful forever. Blah 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 blah. The story continues on that now they're out for revenge at first, and then it turns into that they want to become all powerful. And then that's kind of like that's a consistent theme. However, there are parts of the movie that are pulled out. Like we see, there's a flashback scene of how the witches became to be witches, and then you learn a little bit of that backstory and go on. But go ahead, Webby. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just gonna say, essentially, they just wanted to become all powerful towards the end, just so they wouldn't be sent back to wherever it is they go when the sun came up, right? Because normally they only have the one evening, and then once the sun rises, they disappear.
Yeah, the way that their curse works, it sends them back to hell until a new candle is lit. Right. So I mean, that's like at the highest level, the basis of the story, and that's for your old perspective. There's a lot of new elements. Like I said, this new teenager who turns 16 on Halloween is the new witch, and it follows that kind of story. And I think this is where, for at least for me, like it because at this point, it switches to a coming of age story, and normally historically that tends to resonate with those who identify with, like, that's a teenage girl coming of age story, so immediately it alienated half of the population. Just if you put it at the base level, half or more of the population. So like guys are less interested into that or whatever, and everyone may not be interested in, she's a witch and whatever. And the teenage drama that comes with it. It's, Dawson's Creek 2.0. And then essentially at the end, there's a really good life lesson learned in there. And that's like the highest high level of the movie. If you want a real synopsis of the movie, go to imdb.com. Not sponsored.
Yeah.
But one of the first things that I will say, I want to hear, like, my biggest complaint about this movie, and I liked it. Like, so for me, from a cinematic perspective, it's a movie. It's got everything you need to be a movie. It has a lot of callback to the first movie. So if you didn't understand things before, it'll fly right by you and you have no idea. But if you did see it, that's where the nostalgia. There's this twinge of nostalgia that people could like. But the biggest thing that I found to be an issue was the ages of the actresses for the witches. So if you haven't seen Hocus Pocus, they are portrayed by Kathy Najimy, Bette Midler, and Sarah Jessica Parker, who are now, I think Bette Midler is the oldest at over 60. So, and not that age is anything, but you have to always consider people's ages limit what you can have them do. Plus, I believe this movie was shot during COVID, so there was like all of those restrictional things. So I think right there limited what they could and could not have done for the movie. And that was like my first thing. I'm like, what do you expect? Like, I put my grandmother in Bette Midler's place. I'm like, do I really expect my grandmother to do like anything super crazy on a movie set, even with stunt people?
Mm.
Like, and that was like my first big problem with the movie.
All right, I mean that's fair. Rob,
Bette
what do you?
Midler is 77, by the way.
Damn.
Damn, she looks good for a 77-year-old.
If my math be mathing correctly,
I mean,
she's 76.
I'm going to Jugel and to just put in her name, and it'll tell me how old she is.
How old is
She's
Sarah
76.
Jessica Parker?
Sarah Jessica Parker.
I think she's the youngest of the three.
She is the youngest of the three for sure. She was born in 65, so 57.
Yeah, she's 50. Yeah, she's 57.
Captain Najimy is born.
I think she might. Good.
She looks skinnier, which is she's 65.
Yeah, I mean they're all almost 60 or 70.
Yeah, like
they're all either like you have which is ironically enough the youngest. Like they all like the oldest sister is by far is the oldest one. The middle sister is the middle, and the youngest is the youngest. Like actor.
Actually accurate. Yeah, Bette Midler 76 per the quick Google.
Wow, I mean they all look great in the movie. I'll say that. But yeah, okay, so we gave a very rough rundown of the plot.
I mean, it was super rough.
Rob, what are some of your thoughts?
Like I said, it's not as good as the first one. Like the first one was like interesting and really cool. Like this one had a lot of the same kind of jokes that the first one had. Like when they're choosing what to fly on, like Winnie finds a broom and Sarah Jessica Parker finds a mop. So in the first one, she found just a regular mop, and in this one, she finds like one of those like Swiffer mops. And then in the old one, shoot, I can't remember the third one's name.
Mary
finds a vacuum, like a regular vacuum cleaner, and then in this one, she finds like two
Roombas.
Yeah, and she's flying around like she's basically surfing on two Roombas. So though, I mean, that's updated, but it's kind of the same joke that they had. And then, I mean, they fit things in, like the Roombas come and save them from the salt later and stuff like that. One of the things that I liked was seeing them as children. Like I think that was the best part of the movie, was the very beginning, where you saw them as kids. With the freaking Reverend, he's like, "Oh, the 8 legs of sin," with the spider.
I did chuckle at that. I said, "Yeah, that would be me."
See, I agree. I think the movie was more valuable in that part, and in the early part of the movie.
I think that like the origin story would have made a better movie, like doing the whole thing of them as kids. Like then you wouldn't have obviously Bette Midler and stuff wouldn't be in it, but I think that would have been a better movie.
I agree. Especially because we're introduced to a character that seems to have transcended the wheels of time, if you will, which makes me wonder who they are. Basically, the one who helped them become witches.
Yeah, because at the end you do see her in bird form following the 3 new witches at the end too.
Which makes me wonder who she is. I have a theory of who it is, but of course it's based off of like more modern age stuff, and we can get into that as a topic if we have time. But
She's
Didn't
the
interrupt.
witch god.
Hecate?
Sure.
No, that's who it is. The mother, maiden, and the crone. That's who they reference in the little thing that they say in the forest. The mother, the maiden, and the crone, and that's Hecate, the tri-faced goddess.
Well, we only
Of
got to
magic.
see one of her faces, so
But the mother,
yeah,
she played the role of mother.
that's true. Yeah, I will say that was one of the parts that I actually enjoyed was the Reverend freaking out about the spider. And then when his house caught on fire in that same flashback, he blamed it on the spider. Like everything's
Yeah.
the spider's fault. The spider's the devil. The only other thing that I really I appreciated, I guess, in the movie that really kind of drew me in, and it was really kind of a small part, was the zombie guy that they brought back.
Oh, Billy.
Billy. I liked him.
Yeah, I liked in the beginning too when she was like, "If I was going to marry anyone, it would be Billy or William, whatever." And he's like,
Yeah.
"What? Why me?"
Yeah. So.
I think that's a good. So, just a tangent on Billy really quickly, because his part in the movie isn't. Yet again, he's another what I would call a throwback feature. Like the movie wasn't about him. They really didn't need him for the story at all. But they threw him in there. What I do appreciate. Sorry, I had to cough. I'm mute. I'm respectful. Is that they introduced magic in a way that it is traditionally used. Unless it's like a channeling type thing, like you're constantly chanting, you have to release what you release into the world. You have to put back. So the small comment that nobody is going to mention, and this is like one of those obscure things that only I see. He's like, nobody put me back. They woke me up and never put me back to sleep.
Right, yeah, he's been awake that whole time.
Right, so that little comment there ties back to the way that at least it seems as if this terms of magic and the way that they're working it's action based. So if you're not going to put him to sleep, he'll just remain there forever. And I found that interesting as an interesting callback. Like someone did a little bit of research. Either they did a little bit of research or they just did no research and got lucky, and it makes sense.
Yeah. Devin, did you have a favorite part in the movie?
I think we all share the consensus. My favorite part was the beginning. I think that was the flashback served as the best part. I mean, I did a little song and dance routine that was nice too. The one way or another, that was nice, and the ending credits, their song at the end was nice too. As far as this movie though, in general, I agree with Avelos in that it's a movie. It's watchable almost without watching the first one. It's watchable. They do enough setup where you don't have to have seen the first one to follow along with this movie. It does to get a lot of the enjoyment out of it and to elevate the rating of the movie. I think you do have to have knowledge of the previous movie because a lot of the callbacks and things that happen in that movie are present here. There's a lot of callbacks, a lot of referencing. So there's that. They're depending on the first movie, do a lot of heavy lifting to bump up that nostalgia score. I don't think the movie is offensive in the slightest way in terms of it didn't do anything that stood out where I wanted to I want to sit here and bash the movie, but kind of many things, and many critiques of different genres over the years. Sometimes being safe is not always a good thing, and I think they did this movie fairly safe. It was just a nostalgia piece that they wanted to release onto Disney Plus. And I don't want to say it's a cash grab, but they wanted something to streamline Halloween on Disney Plus. And this had enough appeal, I believe, in my opinion, to pull in young and old audiences. Because most people, I would say, have shown their kids who grew up watching the first Hocus Pocus, have shown their kids or shown their relatives or shown whoever the original Hocus Pocus, so they've seen it, right? I think this was a very safe move by Disney, but they didn't really outside of like the first 5 minutes of the movie where we had the flashback, nothing was really added to this. They didn't add anything to the movie. It was kind of, I don't want to say it was kind of a remake of the same, but it kind of was, which is get woken up by accident, chasing down to perform the ritual before sunrise, song and dance routine, couple of run-ins with the witches. Looks like the witches are going to win. They don't. Kind of deal. You know what I mean?
Now, let me ask all of you this. Do you think part of the, I don't want to say the letdown, but like part of the thing that really kind of that didn't allow this movie to pop really, like, Avelos, you said it's been what, like 20...
They said 29 years.
29 years since the first movie came out?
Yep, almost
first
30.
movie came out in 93.
Yep.
So 29 years because it came out the year after I was born.
So do you think part of the I'm going to say letdown is the fact that 29 years has passed without a sequel? They finally did a sequel and it just didn't live up to any particular expectation that people had, or
Well, I don't think there was an expectation. That's the reason why I'm saying, like, I don't think this movie, I think it was so safe. I don't think there was an expectation in this movie. There's nobody expected a Hocus Pocus 2. Like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe the first couple years out, first like 5-6 years, it was all like, oh, maybe we'll get another Hocus Pocus. Or they'll do something with it. But it just kind of moved into like the category of like a Nightmare Before Christmas or that kind of thing where it's like, yeah, it's a Halloween movie. You watch it. It's like a one-off and that's it, right? It's fun. It's a one-off and that's it. It has nostalgia. You watch it every year and it's like, okay, we're here. It doesn't really have, like, nobody really sitting here like, oh man, like when they announced Hocus Pocus 2, you didn't have people like, oh, we've been waiting for 29 years for this. Finally, Hocus Pocus 2. This is what we wanted. Nobody was really doing that, but nobody was mad about it. You know what I mean? It wasn't like something like, why are you doing this? Like the movie wrapped up nicely. Why are you doing this? I do think they made the right call by making it new characters. If they tried to shoehorn in the characters from the first movie, like older, and like then like new kids in town wake up the Sanderson sisters, and they bring back. They got to like the old crew come back into town to help beat the Sanderson sisters. If they did something like that, I think it would have been much more set up for failure. I think they made a right move by focusing on just new characters, making it almost an independent story. Like they reference it through actions and references, but there's no real tie to the first movie outside of that it happened.
Yeah. So, and to Devin's point, so I didn't think about it until you just said it that way, Devin, but it's really true. So one of the, like I agree. I actually like the movie. Like I watched it twice and I saw things the second time through. I didn't see the first time because I was reliving my nostalgia. And it was because the second time was on my computer and the first one was on a TV about 10 feet away, but that's not the point. I think that this was an attempt at Disney to reignite people's nostalgia. I would bet that there's going to be something in the works about the girl at the end who is the new witch with the new coven. Because, and this is the part where it's bad for me, because I have a little bit of pre-knowledge and other stuff, is that there was a book written by the author who wrote Hocus Pocus, or some author who did a secondary story about a fourth Sanderson sister. And how she was basically like, the mother was the same, but it was a different father type situation. So like a half sister who grew up normal, like, and never was a witch, but has the potential to be one. So for me, and my immediate thought is when this little girl, like, in the movie, I can't remember her name. She's not that important. She's doing all these magic-y things. I'm like, is this the other bloodline? Like, is that an option? And I feel like that's where I think they're trying to expand the territory and they're testing the waters to see how it went. The witches aren't, and if you saw all the way to the end of the credits, the witches aren't gone. and they left it open for them to come back again because of the black cat in front of the BC number 2 box. What does that stand for, kids? You know,
I was just gonna go somewhere real bad, but sure.
Well,
You're right. It means Black Candle.
Maybe we should add an F in there. BFC. Anyway, I just think that it was an attempt to try to play the field to either give us what we want, like Devin says, and could do a quick cash grab, streamline, make it Disney Plus the place to be for Halloween. Plus, get people to stop asking for it, because there are a sect of people who want Hocus Pocus 2 every year.
Right.
Just like in every fandom.
Right, exactly. It's every fandom, it's every that. You're going to hit people who want more Harry Potter movies and more all these other movies, and it's like, yeah, it's fine, but it's one of those things where it's not. They're asking for it, but it's not something that's so
like beloved that it has
beloved.
To have.
I mean, it's a beloved movie, but it's not something that's so like dieharded asked for that every year they don't get it. It's just like, mass anarchy happening.
Right.
It's just like, oh, that'd be great if we had a Hocus Pocus 2. That'd be great if there was a Hocus Pocus 2. They really should do a Hocus Pocus 2. And then they write Hocus Pocus 2. Because like I would go on a limb and say I don't think Hocus Pocus is anybody's favorite movie. I think it's a great movie, but I don't think it's anybody's favorite movie. Like, realistically.
I guess I would agree. I mean, there are some people I knew have turned around and said that's my favorite movie. But,
I mean, maybe your favorite Halloween movie.
Yeah, but that's what I was thinking. I feel like it's my favorite Halloween movie. It's never my favorite movie.
Right,
so I think you're right.
And I think there's definitely like a fandom there, and I definitely think it's there. I mean, because they've had over the years, they've had like the Hocus Pocus 25th anniversary stuff. They had like the Search of the Sanderson sisters, like they were talking about like lore or whatever it was at one point.
Mm-hmm.
It was a TV special. It's like a mockumentary thing they did.
I know we're doing this on Hocus Pocus 2, but do you know what my favorite Halloween movie was growing up? And I mean, I've slowly, like, people who know me know that I don't really do holidays much anymore. But like, growing up, Ernest Scared Stupid. I loved most all the Ernest movies.
But is it because you love the character?
I love the character. I love the way they set up the movies. Just like the feel of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a huge factor when it comes to. So I'm not disagreeing. I've never seen them, to be honest. But I think that's kind of what Devin is saying in this one. That like you would have made it you would have been more of the I like this movie because if it would have followed the Ernest format, you probably would have loved it.
Right.
And I think that's what Devin's trying to say, is that this didn't really have a format to follow. It just kind of took people's love for these three characters and tried to use it as the pad to boost them up into whatever they were trying to do. Money, streamline, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's okay, but I also just did a quick Google search just to make sure I wasn't crazy, and there's like 7 Hocus Pocus books that came out over the years that Disney is getting money off of. So
yeah.
Like it's kind of like one of those things where they just bring it back, and I totally see Devin's point, and and like I said at the top, I don't dislike the movie. I actually like it. Like I said, I watched it twice. I think I'm the only one who did.
I have zero issues with this movie, but nothing really in the movie. Also, on contrast, nothing stands out to me. Nothing is like I can't sit here and praise the movie, but I can't sit here and really bash the movie. I'm very indifferent on the movie. I think it's a good movie, and when I watch it again, yes, but. That's about the end of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The only thing I will praise about the movie is the lesson at the end. It is about
Yeah, I'll admit I got a little choked up at the end.
Well, no, the lesson is anybody who, and this is I guess where it's very off tangent, is if you've ever studied any type of the way what they would call modern day witchcraft or modern day magic works, air quotes, is that there's always a price pay for something, whether it be an object or whatever. And this one, spoiler alert, if you haven't already been spoiled, this one's the big one. At the end of the movie, they do this spell that's supposed to make them all powerful in an attempt to not have to go back down to hell. But the cost is what you love most, and this is one of those things where I'm like, okay. And they led you up to believe to this point that it was going to be Billy Butcherson, like the lover. But here it was actually her sisters, Winifred's sisters, that were who she loved the most, who she did everything. And that's a trope that's used a lot in stories. So that's what I'm saying. I'm praising the trope. I'm not praising the movie, because the trope still to this day is very valuable. Like,
Right.
you know,
I mean,
the price you pay.
even in the Avengers movies, you know, the Soul Stone had that same trope. You know,
Exactly, and I praise that trope because it's a vehicle that gives you good and bad like scenarios. Like, for example, everyone's really controversial with the whole Thanos thing in Gamora, but that decision makes his character. That trope made people love or hate him.
right.
Most hate him. I mean, there might be some people who love him for doing it, but the point is he was willing to do whatever it took, including break his own heart. So, I mean, like. Also, spoilers for Avengers, but you all should have seen that too.
Yeah, 1000%. Unless Ryder was in this chat, he'd be like, "There's obviously another way he could have gone about it. He didn't have to give up his daughter."
He didn't have to do any of the things he did.
Fuck you. Of course he did.
I mean,
He killed half of the galaxy. Even before he got the stones, his army was going around killing half of the planets. That's how he got his daughter, by killing her family.
Yeah, because if he didn't, the planet, the galaxy were going to kill themselves. They were going to run out of resources.
And also, on top of that, not saying I'm supportive of it, Rob, though. I'm not saying I'm supportive of it, Rob, from the Thanos perspective, but he killed indiscriminately. So he didn't spare the nobles. He didn't, condemn the poor. It was just how he drew a line in the sand and said, if you're on this half, sorry, except for her. So this is kind of where I think the movies gave us that emotional attachment. But I agree with you. That if that is truly the economic issue of your world, I'm pretty sure, mass killing of the entire populace isn't the answer, because there probably is no answer for everybody that everyone's going to love. Like, are you, if you're over the age of 60, you should go. Anybody under the age of 20 is like immediately safe because you haven't lived your life. If you're in between, we're going to judge you based off your medical history. Who's dying today? You know what I mean? Like,
but then you get into the question of, do you judge off medical history or do you judge off of morality? Do you want an earth full of people who might be like, do you want an earth full of Patrick Bateman, or do you want, an earth full of like people who may not be in the greatest of shape, but they are, or like the most healthy, but they have good moral values.
Right, which is why, it's probably a very unpopular opinion, and I will, not that I want to kill anybody, but I agree with the indiscriminate. Because at that point, you're not, like...
You roll the dice. Yeah,
you're just kind of... Yeah, the roll the dice, exactly. You're taking a gamble, and at that point, it legitimately is... I'm just solving the larger problem. You also have your own to deal with here. I'll be gone in about 20 minutes. Boom, boom. Right,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, you are right. That is a trope, of, in a lot of movies and stories in general, just the fact that, especially with things like any type of power, if you're gaining in power somewhere, it's coming at a cost. And I think I'm in the same boat as you. I really enjoy that trope. Like I know that's kind of a big thing in like the Wheel of Time. We won't get into it, but men can't use magic in the Wheel of Time series because if they do, it makes them go crazy. But
joke's on you. I've always been crazy.
Yeah, I'm always crazy.
Men is in like
you get like the Hulk logic.
Yeah,
the Bruce Banner Hulk logic for magic. How do you use magic without going crazy? I'm always crazy.
Well, no, so I've
that would be like a really funny line, because then the internet will like take over and they would just like Photoshop like Bozo the Clown into the scene. It's like, how do you use magic without going crazy? Just Bozo the Clown looking over. I'm always crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So wait a minute.
We need a Bozo the Clown movie. Throwing that out there.
Hey, why not?
What were you gonna say, Avelos?
In the Wheel of Time, is it what they would consider the gender male, or man as in like human?
Males.
Okay, like I've never seen it. So
yeah, the females are capable of essentially wielding magic, without going crazy. So they try to police it
It's because there's two gods. One's a male, one's a female, and the male god got tainted on like the surface. So if you try to reach to him for magic, it corrupts you.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I just wanted to know if, because you said man, and man is like sometimes referred to like the race, the human. Like, so I was just referring whether it was humans, which means I'm like, who's in the Wheel of Time then? Are there hybrids? You know, are we all xeno humans now? And that's how we use magic. You know, the little head pops out of your mouth, and that's what casts the spell. Anyway.
So, yeah, I mean, again, I like that trope, and it did get me. I will say I did get a little emotional at the end of the Hocus Pocus movie when, what's her name? Winnie?
Yeah,
Winifred, yeah.
You know, like, she had this power, and then the second she realized her sisters were gone, she did a complete 180 as far as, like, her feelings towards these kids. And she's like, listen, you have the book now. Is there anything that you can do to help me? Like,
but I also, and just to finish that thought out, I like the outcome of how they were helped, because I truly expected the Disney trope of happily ever after, like in the best way possible to occur, meaning like, oh yeah, let me just open it, and I thought something great was going to happen, and they were going to come back, and it was going to be great, and then Dawn would have shown up, and they would have dusted together.
See, I was thinking when they were doing that whatever spell was cast, it was going to bring back the other two sisters, but then strip all three of them of their magic, and so they'd be able to live out the rest of their human lives together, but as human, you know, as mortals.
Right.
I didn't expect them to do the twist of, yeah, we'll just reunite you with your sisters back in hell.
Well, we send them back. It doesn't. The spell, I believe the quote was, the spell doesn't bring them back. It sends you to them.
Right.
So it was, and I enjoyed that, because I'm like, okay, we're not going cookie cutter happy ending Disney here. We're going, it's still a happier ending.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not the one where everybody lives happily ever after.
Yeah.
I will say this, and I don't know how you guys felt. Mainly this is for Rob and Avelos. Webby, you probably can answer this question, but not to the same extent. I like the kids in the first movie better.
I think I do. You know why? I think I do too, and that's because they...
Mainly the little girl. She was the greatest comic relief ever. And she was adorable.
Yes, but you know why, though? And I think that ties to, like, social standards. Like, you can't act... Like, you know what I mean? Like, back then, it was like... She's just a kid, like in the time that the movie was shot, our time. Now, fast forward, if a card, all kids are cards now. If a kid acted unruly like that, then, you know, there's somebody who would be like, depending if there was like, it would tie into something else that has absolutely nothing to do with it. Meaning, like, you know, because this time it was racially represented, which I enjoyed. Like, you know, that it wasn't just a white actor. It was, I think, one was Hispanic and maybe one was like a black mix of race, and I love that. But if they would have acted any sort of way, people would be like, you're stereotyping us, like, because we live in that social world, and I don't know if that would have been the intent. So, like, I just think way back then they were greater characters because all those social borders didn't really necessarily exist from the perspective of, like, how you acted. But now they do, and people are so quick to call you out on it for everything. It's stupid. And but like I said, I love the representation. And one of my favorite scenes in this movie, I know it's really stupid, and I cackled my ass off, was when they were in freaking Walgreens. Like when they took them there for the souls, and they were like, look, she's so powerful, the door is open for her. I'm like, this is so dumb. But then they're in there like eating lotion. It's floral with a musky aftertaste. I'm like, I'm sitting here like grossed out at the same time, but it's hysterical.
Now,
so I mean,
I have a question for you guys. Now, like in the scene where they're standing outside that Walgreens, and they commented on how it's daylight inside, like it's all of the lights are radiating from within it. They weren't in like the dark ages in the first movie. Wouldn't they have seen electricity back then?
They did, but they never went like to like not fluorescent lights. like just regular light bulbs. Like they went to people's houses. They never went to like a store or anything.
Yeah, I think they even made a reference to the first one. They made to like it's like an automatic candle or something like that.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
They were like '90s lights. They weren't that bright.
right. But I think for that moment, like I think that was like the best part of the movie. I mean, like you said, Devin, music, dance number, great, cool, whatever. But like I like some of those cheesy things, like it's like, oh yeah, that's what fluorescence will do to you. Fluorescence. I think we knew her.
Yeah.
I'm like the stupid things. I'm like, that's a dad joke. I feel like that's a dad joke. Why did they give him a dad joke? So I don't know. Overall, I think this movie deserves the rating it has out there. It's like at a 50 or 60, and it hovers for like on most sites that I've looked at, and I think that's actually pretty fair because it's not like it should have been last time. Like it doesn't have the magic of the first one. Whatever that factor may be, it's not horrible enough to me to be like, why did I waste my time watching this? I'm like, I watched it.
You know, I do. There is one part of this movie that did make me legitimately kind of sad, not upset, but like just sad for a character. And oddly enough, it's the mayor never got his goddamn candy apple. Okay, he got some shitty knockoff, that he was not enthusiastic about, and that saddened me.
I feel like you care about the side characters. You're one of the people that watches the movie and you're like, but what about street vendor number 3?
Yeah. Yeah. But I did enjoy how they entered the contest for the Sanderson sister costume contest. They lost, even though they are the Sanderson sisters, and then she threw the trophy at the one judge that instantly knocked his ass out.
Right.
Like that guy's probably dead.
Probably. But also, so I liked that scene because it had representation there. I only know because I read an article. I did a little bit of research after I watched the movie just to get like people's thoughts. Apparently, the ones that were to their like stage left, if you were staring at them, were actual professional drag performers that were dressed up and were like hired for this movie. And apparently, they were just speaking like how lovely the like Kathy and Jamie and Sarah Jessica Parker and all them were in this interview that this I think was Entertainment Weekly or something. And I don't know. I like that. I like that they're, and I think who said it? It was one of the 3 of them that said it best. It's like, if you're gonna do this kind of movie, you need to make sure everybody who loves this movie feels like they have a reason to watch it. And you know what I mean? Like tying that in there, because apparently this open a can of worms. Those dressing up like the Sanderson sisters is like the other part of being a drag performer. That's like what you do. Like apparently every performer's done it once in their life. You've dressed up like a Sanderson sister. So like they're that embedded in that community, I guess.
Oh, all right. So
like I guess from, I don't know. I like when there's representation and for like people like and we're seeing it more with media. And I like that Disney is starting to do it, though of course with big companies like Disney who will be the brunt of all things for like representationally, like oh well, why did you show a black woman like that, or why did you show an Asian man like that? Because they own Marvel and stuff now too. Like it gets a little dicey. I don't know.
All right. Well, with that, Rob, do you have anything else that you'd like to add? Because we're nearing the 6:30 mark, so we'll probably start wrapping up soon. But
yeah, I mean, not really. Like I said, I like the first one better. Obviously, I thought this one was funny. I would watch it again. Still think the origin story would have been a better movie.
Now, Rob, are you the type of person? I know you love Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Are you the type of person where you have certain Halloween movies that you watch or you try to watch every year?
No, not really. I usually just watch whatever I'm interested in at the time.
Okay.
The only movie watching tradition I have is Thanksgiving, which is strange, but it's always, my family always used to watch The Wizard of Oz because it would be on network TV at Thanksgiving. That's the only I have to watch this movie at this time kind of thing that I've got.
Gotcha. Devin, closing thoughts?
I mean, it's a totally it's a movie. It's worth watching, I think. But I mean, it just depends on what you're going into it for, I guess. If you're going into it with the like really want and need for a movie to be like you're going in for something that is as good or superior to the original, you're going to be disappointed. But I think it's still a good movie and fun for like a fun movie to watch with the kids for Halloween. And yeah, I mean that's kind of really it as far as that goes. And as far as movies like I like to watch on Halloween, I try every Halloween to like expose myself to.
Stop right there. To expose myself.
I really do. I try every Halloween to expose myself to like more horror movies and more like obscure horror movies. So I always like start gearing up like mid-September or whatever to do that. But every now and again, I find myself going back watching like Rose Red or whatever. But that's just so long. I don't have the kind of time anymore. But I used to. But yeah.
For whatever reason, when we were joking about the expose, I immediately thought of like, check out Devin's OnlyFans page where he will show you his exposure to horror movies, and it's just like you with the movie cover picture in front of like, you know, covering the parts like the preview picture. Anyway,
I'd be down for that.
All right, Avelos, what about you? Closing thoughts.
I agree.
Anyway,
Listen, it's like, you got to give people stupid things to. Anyway.
I don't knock it. If Devin had an OnlyFans, I'd subscribe. Fuck it. I just want to support my friend.
Exactly. True.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Plus,
no. My closing.
Before you do closing thoughts, probably not a shocker to anybody.
Webby has an OnlyFans.
No, they've already made a porno parody of Hocus Pocus.
Oh yeah, that happened probably before the movie came out.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, didn't they have part of it in the movie where they were like, "Oh, I can give you"? He's like, "We're looking for children." He's like, "I can make that happen. It might take me a few tries." Like,
yeah, the guy that was driving the bus. Yeah,
they already started that in the first movie.
Yeah. All right.
But
Closing thoughts.
I agree with Devin. It's a movie. Temper your expectation of what you're going. What do you want from this movie? If you're expecting something that's out of this world, I'm sorry for you. But if you go into this movie just thinking like it's a movie, you'll be fine. But it was enjoyable. I would watch it again if I was asked to, or if I was giving an opinion on something. But it's not something I'm gonna say will be I have to watch every Halloween season. Like now that Halloween is here, like, you know, if it goes on AMC, I'm gonna have some questions because, you know, horror movie month. That's all.
All right. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. You know, I don't hate the movie. I'm probably not gonna watch it again unless somebody specifically asks me to. Otherwise, I mean, even then, when I do, I'll sit down and watch it. But I don't know. I'll be thinking about doing other things while watching it. So, but it did hold my attention throughout the movie, so it was entertaining enough. I wasn't bored throughout it, so it wasn't a bad movie. It's definitely not the worst movie I've ever seen. But yeah. And with that, I guess we'll start doing sign-offs. Devin, do you have life advice for us?
I do. Courtesy of Mark Twain. Never argue with a stupid person. They would drag you down to their level and beat you with experience.
I really enjoy that life advice. Send that to me in a DM or put it in the Discord chat. I really, really like that life advice. Rob, do we have a science corner?
Yep. I have never been on a plane, but everyone always complains about airplane food. Apparently, there's a reason for that. Because at 35,000 feet or higher, the human tongue goes partially numb, causing loss of approximately 1/3 of your taste buds. And the noise.
So what you're saying is, they owe me 1/3 of my money back for every plate of food I buy.
Yep. And then noise above 85 decibels, which the plane engines make, also dull your sensitivity to salt and sugar.
See, I don't know. I
Um,
don't feel like I've ever had I've never had anything to eat on a plane. Like food has never been offered on any flight I've ever.
I've had like snacks, but never like meals. Like,
See,
I think it depends on how long
the flight is.
I waited for them to come by and be like, "Would you like a little bag of pretzels or fucking peanuts or some shit?" I've never been offered food, but I've been offered.
You gotta
drinks.
like ask them.
And like the drinks, it's usually like a bottle of water or like a can of Coke or a can of soda, right? And like so, when I've had soda on a plane, I don't know, it didn't taste different. I don't know if maybe just soda's too strong.
It tasted like overpriced soda. It tastes like overpriced soda.
I don't know. That's fucked up though.
A little bit.
So sound can alter your sense of taste for sugar and salt specifically?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it's above 85 decibels.
That makes sense to me.
Huh.
Because this has nothing to do with anything, but I legit went to an ears, nose, and throat doctor, and they cleaned out my ears because earwax, blah. And the moment it happened, things started tasting different. So it makes sense that they're connected weirdly.
So I take it, Rob, you did not fact check me and Devin's science corner from last week.
I'm telling you, what I said was true.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I don't know about Webby's, but I know mine was
Listen,
a fact.
Devin, I have nothing but belief in you. Believe in me. That's all I ask.
Webby, I never would not believe in you.
Space ice giants could be real. That's all I'm saying.
Somebody was watching the first Avengers. Anyway.
So, I honestly don't remember what we did for a science. I just remember we kept mentioning that Rob was going to have to fact check us over the week.
Also, Webby, really quick question that's completely unrelated to anything.
Is it okay?
How far from you is Pembroke?
It's the next town over.
Okay.
Yeah, like me, it goes Manchester and then Hooksett and then Pembroke.
Okay.
Well, Pembroke / Allenstown and then Concord, which is the capital.
So, not bad of a drive.
10 minutes.
Okay.
So,
I think I'm on the verge of a nervous breakdown, so I might just pack all my shit up and move and buy a house in Pembroke.
Do it up, bro.
Webby's like, yo, how can I move this nervous breakdown along?
Hey, man, there's Pembroke. I mean, you could live in Pembroke, and then it's fucking maybe a 15-minute drive or something like that from Pembroke to the prison in Concord.
There you go. See?
Oh, God.
It's all coming together.
Oh, well, the universe at work.
And then we have a youth detention center in Hooksett.
It's all coming together.
I guess technically that's Manchester, but it's right on the border.
I can live up my dream of tackling youth. Tackling the youth.
And then in, I think, Goffstown, which is just on the other side of Manchester, is the women's prison. So.
Goffstown. The town of... It's kind of like Portland, but with Goths.
Where everybody's just I just hate it. How would you like your coffee?
It's not Goffstown.
I know. I'm just
with an F, like Goff.
Okay, no. It's Goths. It's how would you like your coffee? Black like my soul.
Black like my soul.
And too splendor.
All right.
Hipster goths versus regular goths.
Jesus. I give it to the regular goths.
Me too. Hipsters. I was goth before you were. I was goth for you were.
All right.
I played my depressing music on records.
With that, we're going to end the episode there. Avelos, where can people find you on the internet if they want to reach out and say hi and support anything that you do?
First off, don't do it.
I was going to say, don't send me dollars. It's fine. Slips is his only fan link. No, I am available at xavalos on Twitter. I don't do much. I'm trying to I might be making a change with that. So maybe the next time I'm on, I'll have more links. But that's it.
Okay. Rob, what about you? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Confessor_X and on Twitch at twitch.tv/ConfessorX.
And Devin, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitch at DMP_Pookie. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. D3. And reverse that. And as always, you can find me on eBay looking for a black flame candle.
Oh, all right.
Would you vote?
I would just want to say thank you, everybody, for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you haven't seen the movie, go see it and tell us what you think. We love you. And as always, you guys can follow me on Twitter at JaxForceWalker, all one word. On Twitch at DMWebby. And at eBay at selling Devin fake black candles. Because we don't need that kind of nonsense.
So that also has has
get
another
like song and
meaning.
dance routines.
I mean,
it won't work anyway. I'm not a virgin.
I mean, that's fair too. All right. Anyway, thanks for
Also,
listening,
looking for
everybody. We
virgins
love
on
you.
eBay. Also, is it legal to sell virgins on eBay? So I have 3 questions now.
Well, probably. Well, maybe.
As
There
the
was some
CIA
article-
comes to the roof.
There
eBay
was some
Dubai.
article where somebody sold their virginity on one of those eBay or something. I don't know if it went through. I don't know. Thank you for
I
listening.
think that was
Fuck
like
Booster
the
Gold.
I don't think it went through. I think they pulled it. But it was like going for like a couple mil, I think, at one point. Which, if I could have sold my virginity for a couple $1 million, I would have sold it. And cut.
I mean, the outro's music's still playing, so it's fine.
I thought you were going for like the Sports Center theme. I was like, why? I was like,